You're listening to the Ballwin Life podcast, episode number 7. Welcome back to another episode of the Ballwin Life podcast. My name is Kirsten Hostetler, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communication for the City of Ballwin. And today I'm very excited to welcome Chief Krause of the Metro West Fire Protection District. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I'm excited to hear a little bit more about who you are and more about your department. So why don't you just start with a brief introduction?
Sure. My name is Mike Krause. I'm the Fire Chief at Metro West. I've been the Chief there for 3 years. I've been employed there for 25. And I was a volunteer prior to that. So I've been around, the City of Ballwin and Ellisville and Wildwood for many, many years in service. So we have a 5-engine house department, one of which sits directly in Ballwin here, across from Lowe's. And so we have about 100 people at Metro West. We're a all hazards response agency, so we go to EMS calls, fire calls, rescue calls, hazardous materials, things like that. So it's my pleasure to be in leadership with a fine organization. I love Metro West very much.
And what got you interested in this line of work?
As a young guy, I had 2 uncles that were more like brothers. They were just a few years older than me, and these guys were in the Coast Guard. And so they would send me letters depicting these incredible rescues and drug interdiction missions that they would be on in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. And it really struck me as being something that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I was headed that direction. My father, to make a long story very short, my father said, I'm going to support you in whatever you do. What's your end game? What's your final goal for your career? And I responded that I wanted to be a firefighter like my grandfather was. So he said, well, why would you not look into that immediately? And so I did, and I found out after knocking on the door at the firehouse in Ballwin here what I might do to become a volunteer. I became a volunteer in 1990 and went through my paramedic training in 1993. And the unthinkable happened. We hardly ever lose people except to retirements. But we had a person that quit and resigned. And when he did, I got a phone call from the late, great Chief Jim Silvernail, who said, would you come to work? And of course, the answer was a resounding yes. So. Well,
that was actually one of my next questions so Chief Silvernail, was he the one who hired you then?
Yes. Yeah.
And obviously for a lot of you Ballwin residents, you're aware of the big funeral that we just had for Chief Silvernail. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about your experience working with him and what you knew about him?
He was a guy that set a foundation for us that I think is important because he was a guy that cared about people, and he developed people. And I was just talking at a retirement thing earlier today, and the importance of when you talk about leadership, it can manifest in several ways. And if you ask 10 people what leadership is, they'll give you 10 different answers.
Right.
And what I always come back to, though, is being a vehicle for other people's success and putting people in a position to thrive. And that's, I think, in a sentence, what he did.
Awesome.
So.
Well, another thing that you just said kind of sparked my interest. You mentioned that you were volunteering with the fire department before. Is that still something that's offered through Metro West, or what does volunteering look like now?
Yes, it is, and it's a little bit, and it took a little bit of a different shape now than it did then. At that point in time, when I was a volunteer, the district sort of relied on those volunteer bodies to help every day respond to calls. Now we have enough people on duty every single day to handle whatever calls or whatever issues there are. So our volunteers really, I think there's maybe 12 or 13 of them total. The benefit is really that they have the privilege of working with some of the best people in the industry and learning kind of hands-on on the scene and on training the professional, the expertise that our guys have. So it's not so much that we rely upon them anymore. It really is. It's a thing where we can develop people. One of the cool things about it is frequently we'll get to know somebody that's a volunteer or reserve. We call them reserves, and as you get to know them, you can sort of tell if they're a fit or not. And it's a self-discovery thing for them.
Sure.
Because if they are a fit, that they start knocking on the door a little bit and they want to get in. Mm-hmm. If they feel that they're not a fit, they quietly exit. And so we're not a place for everybody. We don't like to sit still. We're not we're not into status quo. We're into to trying to be innovative. And when you talk about innovation in public service, sometimes those two words clash because the fire department and the fire service is famous for, change is hard. And
I think that's true for everyone, though. You're not alone in that.
Right. It's difficult. You're right. So we resist change, and but certainly things have changed dramatically in my career, and I think for the better. Change is hard for a lot of people, but in general, I think things have changed for the better at the fire district.
I want to come right back to that, but before we do, if someone is interested in volunteering, where can they go to get more information on that?
Our headquarters is at Manchester Road and Highway 109 at 17065 Manchester in Wildwood. The upstairs is the administrative offices, and if you go to the window, the nice lady Kathy or our sweet Cindy will greet you, and they can definitely help you with getting an application and what next steps might look like.
Fantastic, thanks. So you were just mentioning a lot about like the innovation and the way things are changing. What I've heard about you as a fire chief is that you are very innovative and you're doing things differently. So can you talk a little bit about that and what those things are specifically that make people say you're doing things differently?
Okay, sure. And to be fair, I want to just say that I was given an opportunity when I became in charge of the fire district 3 years ago. I was given a gift because the district was in great shape and it still is, and so it wasn't like I had to go in and fix anything.
Right.
It was just a little bit of a different focus from. When you're in charge, you really can cast a vision. That's the biggest part of my job is vision casting, and then and external stakeholder relationships like talking with you today.
Yeah.
I believe those are the biggest things that I do. And so I was able to kind of look at what was important. And one of the biggest things that immediately was a priority for myself and all my people is community centricity and to really get in the community as much as possible. We've always been a fire district that doesn't shy away from being in the community. And I don't think there's any limits to that. And I think that's what we're striving for, is to be visible and to add value every day. One of the things that we live by is, one of our mantras is, always leave people in a better position than when you found them. Mm-hmm. And that applies to a house fire, to a heart attack. It also applies to being at Deerberg's and a lady drops her groceries. You better get on the floor and pick them up and help her add some value to her day. So we have a primary mission of response, and we'll always do that. And I think as we evolve in time, we're just going to be a value-added service in a lot of different ways.
Well, and I can definitely attest to what you guys have done. Like you said, even just today being here for this interview, but you guys have been strong participants in our Tons of Trucks event, coming out and participating in those community-wide events. So we appreciate all your support in those as well.
Well, we're honored to be included, and we value our relationship with Ballwin tremendously.
And so all of these kind of innovative things that you're talking about, how does that benefit, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but even on a smaller scale level, how does that benefit the residents of Ballwin? What does that mean? What will their life, or how will that look differently? Well,
I mentioned response a little bit ago, and when I think of the word respond, I think of being more reactive. And reactive is okay, proactive is better, and planning is better. And when we talk about innovation in emergency services, I think we're talking about prevention. And several years ago, there was it's been 30 years ago, there was a big push for fire prevention. And that's when you began to see it being commonplace to have smoke detectors everywhere in the house. Prior to that, you could have them, you couldn't have them. There was codes, but they weren't super enforced, and they weren't really that comprehensive. I can tell you that because we became cognizant of fire prevention, lives were saved. So now it's just commonplace, and you could talk to any inspector in Ballwin or any inspector at Metro West, mm-hmm. and you know that anybody that doesn't have a smoke detector in each bedroom and hallway, all those places, they're not going to pass the inspection, and it's like an afterthought for people, but it's saved many, many lives. We look at EMS, emergency medical services, as response, and we believe that if we can reduce the need for us to come responding. That's more helpful than anything. Sure. Healthcare costs are crazy. Mm-hmm. We believe we can help in our own special way to reduce those also, and to help fix that whole problem. Because if we can keep people from going to the hospital unnecessarily, or make sure that there's a lot of different ways to do it. But one of the things is, if you're a 75-year-old person that lives in Ballwin by yourself and you had no medical experience at all, and maybe you've been relatively healthy your whole life, wouldn't it be great if you knew the top 3 or 5 things to look for that might be result in a stroke? Because stroke is so debilitating.
Sure.
Cardiac problems are debilitating. And many people think, I don't feel well, I'm under the weather, I think I'll take a nap. And when they do that, oftentimes when they wake up, something bad has happened, the event has occurred, and now we're into reactive mode at that point. And we go there with our paramedics that are highly skilled and do our very best to bring them to definitive care at the hospital. If we can do education to key demographic areas to reduce the incidence of that, with medicine and medical problems, time is always of the essence. So if the minute that you have a chest pain, it's really important to take it seriously and get evaluated, because if you don't, you can wind up with a heart attack, or worse, you could die. So the same with the stroke. The minute you start to feel dizzy or you have blurry vision, something along those lines, it's you need to get evaluated and call your doctor and get further instructions, or call 911 if it's more advanced than that. So we want to be able to be a catalyst for people to be more healthy. We want to be a catalyst for a healthy, well community, and that goes from we talked about the elder population. We can take that into the population of children also. One of the things I'm very proud of, last year we bought a fire life safety unit. It's a trailer. It looks like an RV kind of a trailer.
Okay.
And it's a smart trailer. So when children come in, we bring it to schools. We're going to get thousands and thousands of people through it this year. And what we do is we bring it to the front door of the school, and we bring kids in there, and it's got a fully built-out kitchen. It looks like the kitchen in your home. And the difference is we push a button, and smoke begins to develop by the stove, and then there's flames. And so it's a virtual fire. And so the children learn how to use a fire extinguisher to put it out.
Wow.
If they apply it incorrectly, the fire grows. If they apply it correctly, like they've been taught a moment before that, it's incredible, and the kids love it. It's so realistic. There's actually a heat source. So as the fire grows, they begin to feel heat on their heads and faces. So it gets their attention. Mm-hmm. It's something that sticks with them. We use that also for our elder population in the retirement homes that we have in our fire district. These people a lot of times have kitchens in these little apartments in which they live, and so we help them to do cooking safety and fire safety. So this trailer, this fire life safety unit, you're going to see a lot more of that. It'll be present at a lot of big community events, and our goal is to really, really push that. That goes along with kind of that vision for a healthier community.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we'll have to take you up on that sometime and bring it out to a Ballwin event. Something that I want to talk about, obviously the lines for the fire district are different than the lines for municipalities and policing districts and everything like that. In Ballwin, we have our residents are incredible. I mean, if you know that. But they're very supportive of our police department, and I think that that's true also of the fire district. But is there anything that you wish Ballwin residents knew, or wish that you could tell them more about the fire district that they maybe don't know?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, and I would agree, your sentiments on the community here is incredible. We've been blessed with a great amount of support, and we have great relationships with people in Ballwin, yourself included, and other leadership here. I would say that the benefit, something that they may not realize, is they have a fire station in Ballwin, right near us here, across from Lowe's. The reality, though, is that they have the full support of our whole fire district. So we have 5 stations. Anything that would occur within Ballwin, you get help from several different places within Metro West and outside of Metro West. We have an automatic aid agreement situation with bordering fire districts such as
Okay.
West County and
Sure.
Monarch, Valley Park. However, you get the lion's share of your help from us, which makes me feel great. One of the other things that I feel it's important to mention while we talk about this is I have a command staff of 8 chief officers. They have various different roles, division heads. Some of them are battalion leaders, so they run a whole battalion. That battalion Charlie, Battalion C is on today. So there's one battalion chief in charge of all 5 fire stations, and they all might be in Ballwin if there's something that happens later on. But what I was going to tell you is that I think is valid and important to know is every one of our command officers lives within the fire district of Metro West. So our leadership is present. So if there's an emergency that requires a lot of resources at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, we're blessed to have our leadership in close proximity. And what that really means to a resident is we can build out an organizational system to manage that incident, that fire or whatever it is, the rescue, that results in increased safety for our personnel, reduced life loss and property loss for the resident. We a lot of other fire chiefs that I talk to on a regular basis wish that they had the resources that I have at my fingertips all the time. If I have them at my fingertips, and every resident of Ballwin has them at their fingertips also, and I'm very proud of that, and I think that's noteworthy for them to know.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, is there anything else that you want to mention that I haven't asked about yet before we kind of wrap things up?
Yeah, I think in closing, I would just mention that I'm highly encouraged by the leadership in Ballwin today, including Chief Scott and all the leadership here in the city. The city administrator Eric Hansen, and also Andy Hickson as the assistant, and all the great staff, including Kirsten here. You just have a very positive mindset, which I think is very similar to what we have at Metro West. I think the synergy that happens between Metro West and Ballwin in the future could be really interesting, and undoubtedly a huge benefit for residents and people that spend time here that aren't residents. So just happy to be quote unquote in business with Ballwin. So I appreciate the time today and the opportunity to speak with you.
Great. And one last thing before I let you go, if people are interested in connecting with you and what the fire district has going on, how can they find you, either website or social? Where would you direct them?
So the website is www.metrowest-fire.org, and you feel free to go there. I would encourage anybody on social media to like the Metro West Fire Protection District Facebook page, rather. We post lots and lots of videos. We find that 30 to 45 second video tends to get people's attention and interest, and we try to do some value added things on video. So if you want to see what our people are all about, and I'm very proud of all of them. But we want to try to engage our public through Facebook, and I think it's working out pretty well. So like it and follow it, and we look forward to and by the way, if you see me out and about, I drive a marked car. It says Fire Chief on it, Metro West. The license plate says 3300. That's my DSN. I would love to speak with you. I drive that car, and if I'm in shorts and in a T-shirt, it's okay to come up and talk to me. That's why I drive it. I want to be identifiable to you. I'm here for you, and so is everyone else at Metro West. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you for being so accessible to our residents and providing a great service. So
My pleasure.
Thanks for being here. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Chief Krause. I know it was a great conversation for me on our end, and I know on behalf of the entire City of Ballwin that we're just very grateful for the relationship and the partnership that we have with that organization. So be sure to take him up on his offer to connect with them online and figure out all the things that they have going on, and to participate and really engage with that organization. They do a lot of great things for the residents of Ballwin. As always, you can find show notes for today's episode at www.ballwin.mo.us. And until next time, continue enjoying the Ballwin life.